So this week on Burns Redo, we're reviewing a film that I grew up watching, a film that has a special place in my heart, and that is Rocketeer, the Joe Johnston movie. This is a film that really did help shape my childhood, and one that I didn't rediscover until probably about a year ago. I bought this film on DVD and watched it for the first time since I was a child. Now, this is my pick for this week, and I'm going to say right now as a disclaimer, I love this movie, so you're not going to get much of a critique of it, and more a gushing review. It basically follows the character of Cliff Secord, played by Bill Campbell, who is kind of like a down-on-his-luck pilot, who finds a jetpack, a rocket pack, that allows him to essentially become a superhero. Now, it's based on, well, they say a graphic novel, but it's based on comic books of the same name. So it's got that whole comic book edge to it. It feels like a traditional comic book movie, but made in the style of old serials from like the 1930s. Now, it's set in 1930s Los Angeles, which is a time and a context just rich with character. You have Timothy Dalton, who obviously played James Bond, as the villain in this, as a Nazi spy, an actor, a Hollywood actor. Timothy Dalton is probably one of my favourite actors. He was one of my favourite Bonds, probably my second favourite Bond after Daniel Craig, and he just really commands the screen in this movie. He chews the scenery of any scene he's in, he absolutely owns. Timothy Dalton obviously has a sense of humour, and you know that from the films that he chooses. He was brilliant basically playing a parody of himself in Hot Fuzz, but this is the film that I'll always remember him for. He's so sinister in this, but so kind of hammy and borderline camp. His villain in this is so much fun to watch. I think he's the standout of the movie. You also have like Jennifer Connelly playing Cliff's girlfriend, who is imaginatively called Jenny. They probably ran out of names when they were naming the characters. But she does quite well. She's essentially just the love interest, but she does quite well with it. I do like Jennifer Connelly, and I think no matter how much screen time she's given, she always manages to do something with it. And I enjoyed watching her in this movie. Having said that, I always enjoy watching Jennifer Connelly. And now you've got Bill Campbell playing the main character, the Rocketeer. I've heard complaints that people think he's wooden and kind of dull, but I really like him. And he is the character that Hal Jordan in the new Green Lantern should have been, the kind of straight-laced pilot who, you know, discovers that he's capable of great things. And, you know, whilst Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern played his usual shtick, Bill Campbell in this really does sell the straight-laced kind of guy, and he's very authentic to the time period. You can imagine a man in his situation would act like that, and I really enjoyed Bill Campbell in this movie, especially once he finds the jetpack, obviously. However, the standout thing that this film does best is the context in which it is set. Now, so many times you see films set in like the 1930s where the characters speak dialogue which sounds like it was written today. A prime example is the Mummy movies. They're set in a similar time period but sound like they're written today. Like you have Brendan Fraser saying, "Oh, you don't believe in personal space, do you?" You know, that's not authentic. The dialogue in this movie is completely authentic to the time period in which it's set. And I'm trying to think who did the screenplay. Is it Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, according to this? The dialogue is absolutely brilliant. You know, you feel like you're in that time period. Joe Johnston not only manages to direct the action really well, but he makes it feel authentic. You feel like you're watching a film in the 30s. You don't feel like you're watching a modern day movie set in the 30s. It's the context, the setting, the production design, everything about this film is perfect. The dialogue is so well written, with characters using the words like swell and broad and dame, but not in a way that feels forced. It feels just inherently organic to these characters and to the time period, and it's for this reason I love this movie. It really does feel like one of those old-fashioned serials, the same that inspired probably Indiana Jones and things like that. It feels completely authentic, and to be honest, Joe Johnston is clearly having fun when he's directing this movie. He's responsible for some of my childhood favourites like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Jumanji. He directed those too. This is probably my favourite favourite of his movies. It's a shame that it didn't do better than it did. It kind of had a cold reception. I don't think it took much money, and it could have had sequels, but it didn't do well enough to justify them. And it's a shame because it's the best comic book franchise that never happened. And I would have liked to have seen it really take off, but this is the reason I'm excited for Joe Johnston's take on Captain America, which is coming out this summer. And I just hope that he managed to capture the same kind of sense of authenticity of the time period that he did in this movie. And but if anything, if this Rocketeer is anything to go by, Captain America will be awesome. But I picked this movie essentially because I want to see what other people on this channel think about it. And in the comments, please, leave your opinions on this movie. But I think it's a brilliant action-adventure film. It's a throwback to old 1930s serials, as well as a bit of film noir thrown in there. It's obviously full of practical effects because it's just CGI was just finding its feet, so most of it's old-fashioned practical effects and rotoscoping and things like that. It looks brilliant. It is brilliant. And it's a standout film in Joe Johnston's career, a career laden with fun adventure films, but this one is really the standout. So I mean, I highly recommend Rocketeer, and fingers crossed that Captain America will be half as good as this.